Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. I'm Maria Casillas, and I'm joined here by my incredible co-host, Cody Sizemore. We are excited to come to you today and talk about some of the things that we've seen rumbling going on in our Facebook group. But before we do that, we just wanted to, as always, say thank you so much to each one of you who is listening today. Especially thank you to those who have listened and tuned in every week, whether it's from the very beginning or from the time that you first hit play. We really do appreciate you showing up each week after that. Today's going to be no exception for what we have to offer you. We are knowing that people are wondering, how in the world do I get people on the phone? Because that's where I know the magic happens. That's where I know I'm able to actually convert these potential clients into actual clients. But you're killing me, Smalls. I don't know how to get them there. So I know that we have in our presence a master at this. Cody, I know that you actually do this almost all the time in your business, and it's probably a daily thing for you to have at least 2-3 calls. And I'm just curious. I actually kind of know the answer to this, but for those people who have not yet talked to you, I just want to throw this out there. What is one of the things or several of the things that you do in order to help people get on the phone with you?
Yeah. Well, you're correct. I talk to, as far as like phone calls go, it could be anywhere from like 1 to 3 or 4 phone calls a day kind of thing. But the only reason that happens is because I talk to 25 to 50 people a day off the phone as well. And that's the key. So I want to make the focus of how to get people on the phone to really be like the step before that, which would really be just initiating a conversation through like direct messages. If it's like over social media, if it's through text message or email or whatever it might be. So just for context, we'll just call it direct messages is like one kind of like umbrella term. But that's where it really does start. Now, as far as like initiating that conversation goes, you have to have some sort of reason to initiate that. So maybe you posted like a lead magnet, or you sent out a lead magnet out to your email list or whatever it might be, and someone, signed up for it. And, they had to put in like their phone number or something like that in order to receive it. That would be a reason to reach out. Just be like, hey, like I saw you signed up for this, just wanted to see how things were going, blah, blah, blah. That would be a good reason. Or it could also just be from you just putting yourself out there and just making a post on social media, whether it be, a post about a client's success or asking a question about financial stuff that people respond to, or telling a story that people, engage with, or whatever it might be. But any sort of like engagement, especially if they leave a comment, that's another really good reason to reach out. You could even go as far as like, if someone were to even like your post, that might be enough of a reason to reach out. I'm
glad you said that. I'm going to interrupt for just a second. I'm really glad that you said that in light of what we talked about last week. And it's just that idea that, as you have more and more people interacting on your post, you might start with the people who are DMing you. Who are commenting. But if you're just getting started, don't be afraid to go and talk to the people who have only liked the comment. I am one who actually uses the like sometimes just as a notification for them to say, I'm seeing you. I'm listening to what you're saying. I don't have time to comment on it, but I want you to know that I see you. So I don't get upset when people actually reach out to me in that case. So,
yeah. And that's a really good point, because there are people who see you who don't like or comment, So the very fact that they do like it is like, that's them kind of putting themselves out there to where they're like, I'm not going to comment, but I am going to let you know that I saw this.
Yeah. And it might be a test, right? They might be testing you to see how much you actually care about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
Yep. But I think a big reason as to why people may not reach out is because they're afraid to reach out because of a number of reasons. Number one, they just don't want to be that person who's like pushy or, trying to like sell someone something or anything like that. Number two might be because of rejection, fear of rejection, right? And I can tell you that if you do it in a way, you don't need to worry about either one of those. And this is what I want to get into. So
here's the master.
I basically follow like, I don't want to call it like a formula for the DMs, but it's more so of just like a system, I guess you could say. So what I think is probably best is I'll give like a 30,000 foot overview of what this system looks like. And then I think that it'd probably be beneficial to actually just like read through some of the messages of someone that I reached out to, who then hopped on a phone call with me, who then went through my program and then signed up for my momentum program after the fact as well.
Okay.
So I think that would be a good opportunity to kind of just show you like what the 30,000 foot view looks like in action kind of thing.
I agree.
Cool. So as far as the 30,000 foot view goes, first and foremost, whenever you're talking to someone, you don't want to be that person who is trying to sell them something or trying to ask them of something. So don't be that person. Like all you should really, your whole goal of this conversation in the DMs should really just to build a relationship, like be a human, talk to another person. And, be social. Like that's literally why it's called social media. Like shocker, So have that be your intention first. And to start the conversation, we would do something called what I would say is called like a knock on the door kind of message. So that's the first step. Then from there, you would then ask a question that makes sense as to why you're reaching out. And then from there, they're going to probably give you an answer and you're going to go back and forth with them probably several times. It could be as little as like 3 or 4 messages. It could be as many as 20 or 30 messages, somewhere in there. I don't know, but you're going to be going back and forth with them. And basically the process of it would be to acknowledge what they said in their response and then ask a follow-up question that's leading you a little bit closer to the ultimate question of, do you feel like you'd want to hop on a call? So again, that could take as little as 3 messages. It could take as many as 20 or 30 messages. But the whole goal is to acknowledge and then ask another question. Acknowledge and then ask another question. And then when the time feels right to where you feel like you're connected with them, they feel like, you feel like you've kind of like hit some sort of pain point that they are kind of like experiencing that they could need some help with, that's when you make the invitation to actually invite them onto a call. So that's the 30,000 foot view. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Pretty simple, right?
Yes.
You'd think so. Right?
Simple's not always easy.
Right.
I do have a quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you suggest that people put aside like a block of time specifically to engage in conversations like this? And if not, what do you suggest they do instead?
Yeah, I would say so. So even on my end, I have like an hour every morning to where I either respond to messages that came through like overnight, or I would initiate new conversations as well. And then throughout the day, as people start responding, I'll get back to them as I can kind of thing. But there's usually like minimum 1 hour block of time every day that I'm just spending like talking to people, reaching out to people, responding to messages. And then throughout the day, there might be like an additional like hour that's kind of broken up throughout the day that I'm spending, talking to people, responding, all that kind of stuff. So I would say at least 1 hour of dedicated outreach. And then the rest of it, you can kind of like get back as you have a few free moments kind of thing.
Okay. And yet, even though you're saying get back as you have a few moments, it's still dedicated time. And I want to point that out because I think so many times if we have so many things going on, it's very easy to feel flustered in, oh my gosh, this person and I have to, they're texting me and I need to text them back right away. And if you've got 3 or 4 of those going on at the same time, it can get really messy in your head. You and I were talking before we hit record today, and like, you're like, wait a minute, I cannot do 2 things at once today. And sometimes there's that feeling of we have to do, 5 things at once. And if you're doing that, I just want to point out that you're not actually being present for the person that you are talking to. And they're going to feel that. They're going to sense that. So if you are the type of person who has a bajillion things going on during the day, it might be a good idea to set aside some dedicated time, like Cody said, in the morning, maybe in the evening, or you can break it up during the day. But when you're on, you're on. That's the main point that I want to make. Okay, go ahead.
And building off of that, before I go into this example.
Okay.
People have lives.
Yes.
And they also understand that you also have a life. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to respond to someone immediately.
Correct.
In fact, there's even sometimes where someone will respond to me and I've been like very like, quick to respond. And I'll actually like let it breathe a little bit. I'll be like, okay, this person responded. I'm going to wait like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. That way, like, it kind of just, it's a pattern breakup, and it's not like I'm like desperate kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
It's okay to let people, respond to a message and then allow them to do their own thing. And then, you send them a message and then they'll get back to you when they can. And that's why I said, like, in the morning, I usually have that dedicated time, because there are people who will message me at 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. And I'm not responding to them at that time. Yep. I'll let it go overnight, and then I'll hit them up in the morning at 9 or 10 in the morning, and they might not respond for a few hours, but that's okay. That's just a part of how we communicate nowadays,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that's okay. You don't need to feel like, oh my gosh, this person is responding, I need to get back to them. It's okay, man. It's okay.
Yeah. And it indicates to them that you have solid boundaries, and that's important too.
Exactly. Exactly. So getting into this example, we went through the 30,000 foot view kind of structure or system. But I want to be specific with an example. So starting with initiating the conversation. This was a girl who commented on one of my posts. And that was enough of a reason for me to actually shoot her a message and reach out. So I started with that knock on the door question. So basically what the knock on the door question is it's just a way for you to send a message to someone to just simply to get them to respond. And that's it. You're not telling them why you're reaching out. You're not trying to tell them about you or what you do or anything like that. You're just trying to get them to respond. And the whole reason for that is because just getting them to respond, if you then send them another message and then they don't respond, they ghost you, they're kind of like the jerk. Not you kind of thing, and it's kind of like a pressure thing in a way. Like, it's a healthy pressure. It's not like a vindictive pressure or anything like that, but it's just kind of like, hey, like, I know you responded to me. I know you're looking at this. So respond to my next message too, kind of thing. It's like, let's be cordial here kind of thing. So
even if the response is a no, it's something, right?
Even if the response is a no, but just getting them to be open to communicating is the first step. So what that looks like for me is, whenever I send someone a message that looks like this, I usually would say something along the lines of, hey, so-and-so, got a quick question for you when you get a sec. That's it. That's all I would send. Didn't say anything about me. Didn't say anything about why I'm reaching out, what I'm offering, what I'm doing, nothing. Just, hey, so-and-so, got a quick question for you when you get a sec. Because that also brings curiosity to the table as well.
I was going to say, and you didn't tell them what the question is. Right. And I think that's where so many people go. They're like, I got a quick question for you when you got a sec, but then they tell them the question and they're thinking that when they have a sec is when they're going to answer that question. And you're like, nope, So I really like that.
Yep. So, breeding that curiosity is really important. So then she said, can you guess what she said? She said, sure. What's up? Sure, what's up? Right? Like any other person would say.
Yep.
To which I then revealed to her why I was reaching out. And I just said, yeah, so I was kind of just scrolling through my Facebook this morning and looking over my comments on my post from yesterday again. And honestly, yours stood out to me, so I figured that I just reach out to you. Pause. Now, before I go any further, I just want to break that down a little bit. You notice how I'm being kind of like really nonchalant about it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was just kind of scrolling through my Facebook this morning and just looking over my comments from my post yesterday. And honestly, like yours stood out to me. So I figured I'd reach out to you. I'm being really chill about it, but I'm also kind of like singling hers out and, kind of making her feel a little bit more special to where I'm like, your comment really stood out to me kind of thing, So I'm accomplishing those two things. Now, as I go on, I said, you mentioned that if you got a bonus from work, that you would put it towards your wedding. And I just wanted to say congratulations on that. I must be behind because I didn't even know that you were engaged. LOL. When is the wedding? So again,
connecting.
The post was about getting a bonus, which was money related. But I'm just acknowledging what she said. I'm just saying like, hey, you said you're going to put it towards the wedding. That's awesome. Like, sending her congratulations, like, all that kind of stuff, acknowledging her, and then not making the money part of it the focus. I'm actually making the focus the wedding. When's your wedding? I didn't even realize that you were engaged. That kind of stuff. So again, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm planting the seed that like, hey, this came from a money question, but what I'm actually trying to do is just build a relationship with you right now. Right? To which then she responded and she said, thank you. We got engaged in April and our wedding is September 7th of 2024. So then I responded to her and I acknowledged her. So remember, there's the acknowledgement part, and then there's the question part. And each question you're trying to get just a little bit closer, right? So what I said was, oh, nice. I love September and October weddings, so that's awesome. Are you guys having a bigger wedding or a smaller one? It's good that it's about a year away because that gives you some time to save. So you see how I did that? Are you having a bigger wedding or a smaller wedding? That's the question. And then I planted a seed about money to where I said, it's good that it's about a year away because that gives you time to save. So I'm just getting a little bit closer, just a little bit closer. To which then she responded and she said, it's definitely a bigger wedding. We're anticipating about 200 or more people currently. And yes, I'm glad him and I agreed on the fall wedding because it's my favorite time of year. And yes, I have been working overtime to do just that. So she's giving me information. It's a bigger wedding. She's been working overtime, all this kinds of stuff. So I'm going to acknowledge and then ask another question. So this was my response. I said, oh, nice. That'll definitely help. But overtime usually isn't fun, with like a laughing face, but it might be necessary. How is saving for the wedding going? Do you feel like you're on track for it, or do you feel kind of nervous about it? So again, I acknowledged that she's working the overtime, threw in just a little bit of like it's maybe not that fun, but it's totally necessary. And then I asked the question, how's the saving going? Are you on track, or are you feeling nervous about it? Just getting a little bit closer. And she says, I'm on track, but I'm still nervous regardless. It's been rough. So now, because of what I did leading up to this in this conversation, she's acknowledging that I'm just genuinely curious about her wedding, and how the whole saving process is going. So she's feeling more comfortable with me. So now she's starting to open up. That I'm on track, but still nervous regardless was one message. And then she sent a follow-up message that says, it's been rough. So now she's starting to feel more comfortable with me. and she's letting me in on some of her pain points there.
Can I stop you for just a second?
Yes.
You said she sent a follow-up message. So that means that she sent 2 separate messages before you responded. That's
correct.
I hearing that correctly? Okay.
Yep.
So that's important, you guys, because that means that there was a silence there. And I don't know how long of a distance there was in time between those two, maybe only 30 seconds. I don't know. But it's kind of like the silent pause when you're face to face. It gives them an opportunity to really think about what's beyond that initial emotion that they're having. So
yeah,
well done.
And that part of it was the most important part, you know? So I responded to that and I said, oh, you know, I'm sorry to hear that. What's making you so nervous, if you don't mind me asking? And then she responded and she said, I'm just trying to stay afloat as far as paying everything on time for the wedding goes. There's just a lot and our families aren't able to help us, which we never really expected. So now she's telling me even more that like she's feeling a lot of pressure because she's not getting any sort of support from her family. In fact, she's actually saying, we expected to get some support, but now we're being told that we're not, and that's adding even more pressure onto me. That's basically what she's telling me. So then I responded, and I am going to acknowledge and then ask a question. And this is where I felt like, okay, I know what's going on. I know what her goals are. I know how she's feeling. I know where she's at. This is where I also know that she's feeling the pain as well. And this is where I said, I think that now is the time that I'm going to invite her onto a call. So I'm going to acknowledge, and then I'm going to invite. Acknowledge, invite. And this is basically what it looks like. I said, oh yeah, that adds an extra element of stress and pressure for sure. ... Is this something that you guys feel like you might want some help with? ? I wouldn't mind hopping on a call with you guys to see what you have going on and to see if I can either help you or at very least give you some feedback to work off of that you guys can take and run with. You think you might be up for that sometime? To which then she responded and she said, I'm willing. I'll just have to talk to my fiance. And I meant that as we didn't expect our families to help pay, we went into this not expecting help for sure. And I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. Thanks for clearing that up. Even so, it's definitely extra pressure. And yeah, of course, you know, you want to talk to him tonight and see what he thinks, and we can kind of go from there. And then she said, yes, that sounds great, blah, blah, blah. So the next day, I want to go into this a little bit more as to what our conversation looked like the next day. But I want to just unpack that invitation for a second. So my invitation always leads off with a first question. Is this something that you feel that you might want some support with? That's always a really good question. And then following it up with, I wouldn't mind hopping on a call with you to see what you have going on. That part of it, I wouldn't mind. The language being used there, it's being portrayed as if I'm not desperate. Because I'm not. I'm saying like, hey, I wouldn't mind doing this. As if almost like it's like, I wouldn't mind taking time out of my day to help you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm doing something for you kind of thing. So that I wouldn't mind is really important. And then following it, it says, you know, to see what you have going on so that I can either help you, which plants the seed of, you know, I can help you and, you know, potentially work with you, or at very least give you some feedback for you guys to work off of that you can take and run with, which then plants the seed of, I'm not going to trap you with this call. At very least, you're just going to get some feedback and you can take that and run with it, kind of thing. So it makes them feel like it's safe, you know?
And valuable. I'm going to throw that in there because I think that that's what that second half does for it, is it makes it feel like it's going to be valuable whether or not they decide to work with you.
Right. So that's something I wanted to just dissect with that with that invitation is that there's thought processes behind every sentence that is in there, But going into the next day, she reached out to me first. I didn't even reach out to her. She reached out to me and she goes, "Hey, Cody, I talked to my fiance and he's open to any financial advice. So if we could set up a day and time, that'd be great." And then I said, "Hey, thanks. So she sent that. And then I didn't respond to her because I was busy that day. I was with different clients, whatnot. So the next morning I got back with her and I said, "Hey, thanks for your patience. This past weekend was my daughter's birthday. So I was pretty focused on family. But that sounds great. We can absolutely find a time. Here's my scheduling link. Go ahead and find a time. Blah, 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 blah. I'll keep an eye out for it all to come through. Blah, blah, blah." She booked a call. We had the call. She became a client. We went through the program. And then she signed up for my momentum program after that. But the whole process of her getting on the phone, her becoming a client, going through my program, and then investing more into my maintenance program or my momentum program beyond that, it all started with me just knocking on her door and saying, "Hey, got a quick question for you when you get a sec." And then from there, I just built a relationship. Asked a question, acknowledged what she said, asked another question, and did that several times until it felt right to extend that invitation.
Yeah.
And that's how it's done.
Yeah, very well done. Master of DMs. I think it'd almost be comical. We're running out of time today, but I think it would kind of be fun to do a version of this as it's what not to do, and like almost like a parody side of it. We won't do that.
I can tell you one thing real
quick.
Please
do. Yeah, I think there's a couple of these things I think would be really helpful.
What not to do is what most people do.
Right. Do. And we've both been the victim of this, I'm sure. Go ahead. Yeah. What do you got on your mind?
What not to do is to reach out to someone and in the first message, you're sending like a book of stuff. And then you're also sending a link or whatever it might be. No one cares.
That's right.
And you want to feel like you're selling someone or you want someone to feel like they're being sold to. That's how you do it. You know, like the mistake that people make is that they don't knock on a person's door. They just kick it in like it's their house. And it's not your house. It's not. Knock on the door politely and then ask to come in.
I think too. Yeah, I love that. And I also think that one of the other things that happens is people will knock on a door, but it's like cold knocking. If there is such a thing. I can't help but think of the level of annoyance that I receive, like when somebody selling solar is going to knock on my door. Like I'm in the middle of trying to get dinner together and they knock on the door and it's their version of, "Hey, when you get a second, I have a question for you." But I don't have a second right now. So I'm just like, I'm already frustrated that this person's even there. But what I was going to say is I love that you're leading with that. But I don't want people who are listening today to just go and message everybody that they know who's on their friends list, "Hey, I got a quick question for you when you get a sec," because what made that so powerful wasn't just the knock on the door question. It was that you were able to take something that you knew about her because of her interaction with you and turn the conversation into something about her. And that, I think, is the biggest difference between, someone who has made some level of interaction with you versus something that is, just like a cold knock. Now, if you're just getting started and you don't have people commenting or maybe even liking on one of your posts, you can absolutely still use this strategy, I think. I mean, correct me if you think I'm absolutely off base here, Cody, but I do think you can use this strategy with people that you know, even if it's just like a tangential knowing of them, but still make it about them. Maybe they haven't interacted with any financial posts, but you can maybe you saw something on their timeline that indicated to you that they could use some help, and you could use this strategy in that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad that you said that because I would never just go through my friends list and just send people messages.
But you know who does? A lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm not any of our listeners. Our listeners are way smarter than that. But there's going to be someone who hears a strategy like this and go, "Oh, that works. Okay, I'm going to try that." And then they're just going to randomly send stuff, and that's not where the magic in this is.
Yeah, there always has to be a reason, and there always has to be a reason as to you wanting to help them, in some way, and not sell them, but instead to help. And to build the relationship. I mean those are really the three main things. Like, as long as you're reaching out to people and it makes sense as to why you're reaching out to them, like you have a reason to, and you make the focus building a relationship first, not talking about what you do or anything like that. Even throughout that entire conversation, not once did I ever tell her who I am, what I did, nothing. And you want to know why? Until the only time I brought that up was when I invited her onto the call. But even at that point, I really didn't say like, "Oh, I'm a financial coach and I can do this. I help people do this." I didn't say any of that.
Right.
You want to know why? Because people are no. It's not that people don't care. It's that people are smart. If someone is having a conversation with you online, they either A, already know you, or B, they don't really know you. But because you've been having a conversation with them, they're for sure going to your profile and seeing, who is this guy? So there's no need for me to give my pitch of who I am and what I do and how I help people. There's no need. Because if I ask them to hop on a call, then they're either going to already done the research, or if they didn't, then they would then ask, "Well, what exactly do you do?" And then at that point, you can then tell them. But there's no need to pitch at all while you're on a DM conversation. There's no need. So don't do it. Yeah. Just have a conversation.
Which is like the exact opposite of the advice that you get when it comes to like the elevator pitch and all of that stuff. I mean, you're like, no, let's just have an actual conversation, make it about you, meaning the other person. And then when it comes up and it matters, that's when we bring it up.
Yeah, exactly. So
very well done. Well, this is fun. I always love the case studies. I just think that they make things real, and that it's something to chew on, I mean, even if somebody would have done that a little bit differently, that's good. It's okay, because that means you're putting your own spin on something and, putting your own personality into something. But this was a really good example of somebody who not just engaged in that conversation with you, but invested, even when she had other things she was obviously working to save towards, found the value to invest in what you were offering and to continue that investment. And where she's not even married yet, if I've done the math right. So that means she hasn't even gotten any of her wedding gift money, which she will get if she has, $200 and some guests invited to this thing. She'll get a pretty nice payday at the end of her wedding. And now she's going to know what to do with that and not squander it. So that is just a huge, huge blessing, I think, that you were able to give them. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. Awesome, guys. Well, hey, thanks for checking out this week's episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. We hope to catch you on the next one. And if you listen to this one, and then you also listen to the next one, technically, you would be called an every weeker. So if you haven't quite gotten that badge of honor, you know what to do next week. So we'll see you then. Peace out.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching. Music provided by Summer School.